Having to admit you've made a mistake is a dreadful thing, which is why I try extremely hard to avoid ever having to do so. The trouble is that every now and again I find myself being presented with data so overwhelmingly contradictory to my viewpoint that I'm left with simply no option but to adjust my position, and then of course to pretend that that was always my position. So here are 3 such acts of flagrant flip-floppery that I feel compelled to concede. The first relates to the acronym CODE, which stands for Create Once, Distribute Everywhere. And essentially this means that rather than approaching each channel in isolation, you focus instead on creating world-class content that's channel agnostic and then putting it out everywhere. Now, I championed this approach for a long time, but the trouble is, content marketing just doesn't work that way. As the great Joe Pulizzi said in our interview over the summer,
if you look at the greatest content creators in the world right now, they're bloggers, they're YouTubers, they're on TikTok, they're doing one thing really well. And then once you do one thing really well, then you diversify.
Now, to be clear, I'm not suggesting you shouldn't still promote your content on a variety of channels. Operationally, that's a no-brainer. But what I'm saying is you just need to be aware that 80% of the value is going to be derived from one source. So it's super important to be aware of what that channel is so that you can design your content accordingly. The second relates to the wisdom of starting with why. Now, like a lot of people, I was obsessed with that Simon Sinek video about brand purpose. You know the one. So much so that we actually integrated it into our branding sequence. But while it was brilliant at breathing new life into large established organizations, we found that for new companies, it often distracted us from the most important question of all, and that's product market fit, a question that few businesses ever really get to grips with. And to be frank, who the hell cares why you do what you do if no bastard wants to buy it? It's not an inspirational thing to say, and it certainly won't be welcomed by brand experts, but the truth is that for the vast majority of new businesses, they really should start with what. Finally then, we have the value of a marketing qualified lead, or MQL. Now, if you're not familiar with that terminology, it's referring to data that we've captured from within our target audience where we have permission to make contact. Now, I can still recall all those years ago when I was first introduced to the concept of MQLs, and I was instantly hooked by the financial simplicity of it all. 3 MQLs equated to 1 sales qualified lead, and 3 sales qualified leads equated to 1 converted customer. What's not to love? The trouble is, it's all absolute bollocks. In all my years since then, I've never encountered a business that works with that kind of formula. And the truth is, most B2B buyer journeys are just far too messy and complex for that kind of direct attribution. So if you want to prove your worth to your board, concentrate instead on the actual converted customer value that you can tie back to a marketing activity. Because that number, or at least a percentage of that number, is something you can genuinely take credit for. But leave the MQL talk to within the marketing team, because honestly, as I've discovered one too many times, nobody else cares. See you next time.